You're on mute. You ready? All right, everyone, it's 6:30 and it's time to convene our regularly scheduled board meeting. If everyone would like to please stand, make the appropriate move, and help me recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Indivisible, and justice for all.
Thank you. First, before we begin the meeting, I need to read just a couple of announcements here. Number one, the board members of RCS staff will attend the meeting by electronic communication pursuant to PA 101-640. Some board members may elect to attend the board meeting via remote means. In consideration of the COVID-19 pandemic, the governor's disaster proclamation and PA 101-640, members of the public will not be permitted to attend the meeting in person, but will be able to view a live stream of all open portions of the meeting on the Rancho City Schools 137 Facebook page. A recording of the meeting will be posted on the RCS 137 YouTube channel and also on the RCS 137 website. Although not allowed to attend the meeting in person, individuals will still have the ability to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting by emailing their full name and public comments to info@rcs137.org 2 hours before the scheduled board meeting start time. A board member will read your comments to the board members. Public forums allow for up to 5 minutes of comments per person. Also, anyone viewing this live stream, we want to welcome you to the board meeting. First thing on the agenda we have is a call to order and the roll call. So if we could have the roll call, please, Hannah. You're on mute, Hannah.
Sorry. Andy Graham.
Here.
John Brotherton. Here. Bill Sweat.
Here.
Mark Keys.
He's absent.
Joe Robinson.
Here.
Sandra Ulott.
Here.
Joan Fitzgerald.
Here.
Okay. Mark is here, but he's on mute. Hey, Mark, can you hear us? You're on mute. If you are you present?
No, he's not present. So we just set it up for him and we'll take that down.
Okay. All right, then. Before we go on, I forgot to make one other comment for those who are viewing this meeting. Since we are doing this via remote means, all votes that we take today must be a roll call vote, so we can make absolutely certain that you know which vote board member did vote. But that's the new policy now. So all any action or non-action that we have to vote on, we all must do a roll call vote. This moves us on to item number 2. It's an action item. Additions, corrections, and modifications. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda? Does anybody have any recommendations on anything that needed to be deleted from the agenda? Removed, switched around? If not, then I believe the only thing that we might want to take off, if it's on here.
Mr. Sweat, this is just the agenda for the budget amendment hearing.
Oh,
So we'll do
sorry,
the, yeah, no problem.
so no public forum. So number 4. Well, anyone care to make a motion to approve the budget amendment hearing agenda as presented?
Also move.
Okay, Ms. Ulott made the motion. Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Fitzgerald seconded, and we'll need a roll call vote, please, Hannah.
Graham.
Aye.
Ulott.
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Keys, sorry,
Okay,
Robinson,
Aye.
Sweat.
aye. Okay, it's unanimous. That motion carries and the agenda is approved. We have a public forum. It's related to budget amendments, and there's no comments on the public forum. So if there isn't any comments or anything like that, then this brings us to item number 4, which is adjournment of the hearing. So we have someone care to make a motion to adjourn the meeting, the budget amendment hearing meeting.
So moved.
Okay, that was Andy Graham made the motion to adjourn the meeting. And that's at, it looks like what, 6:37? Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
Looks like Joe's picture popped up first, so Mr. Robinson's got the second. And we'll need a roll call vote on that, please.
Ulot,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. Okay, unanimous, motion carries, and the meeting's adjourned. Okay. All righty. Anybody need to take a quick little breather before we go on to the regular meeting agenda? Nope. Okay. So we're getting ready to move into our regular meeting agenda. First item on the agenda is call to order, and we need to do a roll call, please.
Andy Graham,
Aye.
John Brotherton,
Aye.
Bill Sweat,
Here.
Joe Robinson,
Here.
Sandra Ulot,
Here.
Joan Fitzgerald.
Here.
Okay, that gives us at least a quorum so we can officially conduct this meeting. Also, Hannah, you have the time down as what, 6:38 that we began our regular meeting?
That's what I wrote down, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, this moves us on to item number 2. It's an action item. It's for the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the regular meeting agenda? The only items that are recommended to be removed from this agenda are items number 17 and 18, and they deal with closed session. Unless the superintendent has any changes or needs to go into closed session, or if any board member thinks that we need to go into closed session. If not, then that the recommendation is to remove 17 and 18 from the agenda. Everybody had a chance to take a look at this. Nobody has any other additions, corrections, or modifications? And would someone care to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion to, go ahead, Joan.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, motion was made by Ms. Fitzgerald. Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Ulot, and we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Graham,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. Okay, and it's unanimous. Then the agenda's
Oh, who am I missing?
Fitzgerald.
I'm sorry, Fitzgerald.
Aye.
I knew there was somebody missing, sorry.
That's okay. So then it is unanimous, and the regular meeting agenda has been approved as modified. That this 17 and 18 will be removed from the agenda. This moves us to item number 3. It's a safe routes to school presentation. The Regional Planning Commission tonight, Rita and Gabe from Regional Planning Commission have joined us on Zoom to answer any questions the board may have after their video presentation, which we'll play in a few seconds. I was just wondering, is there supposed to be sound?
For existing conditions, we collected a number of data sets, including student distance to school, pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and the condition of those, as well as their compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, signs, circulation, traffic controls, and also crash history. You'll see 3 photos in the picture. On the top left is the sidewalk near Pleasant Acre School that runs along the farm field. On the top right is the sidewalk next to Sunview Road leading from Broadmeadow School. And the bottom right is the crosswalk at East Lawn School and Maplewood Drive. We looked at how kids are getting to school, and for all 4 schools, most kids are getting to school by car. However, walking came in second for East Lawn, Northview, and Pleasant Acres. And we understand that Broadmeadow is a little further away from students' homes. So we do have some recommendations to try to encourage walking at that school. Some kids came by bike, the most 3% at Northview, and then others by school bus and daycare van. What we heard from all schools from students is that drivers can be aggressive. Kids' bikes are being stolen at times from their homes or neighborhoods or school. They find some roads busy to cross, such as Maplewood Drive, Route 45, and Route 136. For some kids, it is too far to walk to school, and others have personal safety concerns or sibling or family influences. Others find the sidewalks or roads in bad condition, and some want streetlights for overcast days or dark winter days. For all plans, we have several goals to improve multimodal connectivity and mobility, accessibility, affordability, and equity, safety, education, and encouragement. Going through the E's, we have 5 high priority engineering recommendations to install sidewalks, improve their condition, or build missing sidewalks, install pedestrian countdown signals like you see in the top picture that tells you how many seconds you have left to cross a road, install permanent vehicular speed feedback signs like you see in the bottom picture, and upgrading curb ramps to be ADA compliant. Medium priority recommendations include to install more bike lanes, improve signage for pedestrians. The picture on the top shows an example of a median refuge island where you have a 4-lane road, but a place for pedestrians to wait to cross 2 lanes of traffic at a time. It also shows a sign with lights that can be lit up when you push a button, and we're recommending that on Route 136, Broadmeadow School, and near the high school, which is a safe walking route for Northview students. And then we have to continue building trails and install covered bike parking at schools so that bikes that are at school during the day are not exposed to the elements. Finally, bike route wayfinding signage is a low priority an example you can see in the bottom picture, and installing trails and parks. For each school, I will show the traffic circulation and safe walking route map that we're proposing. Here at Broadmeadow, most cars and buses enter Sunview Road. Cars go to the west side of the building and buses the east side. Walkers and bikers use the sidewalk on the east side of Sunview Road. We're proposing that Broadmeadow Road become one-way west only during school start and end times, just to reduce the number of amount of traffic for kids walking, biking. We also want to see a sidewalk on Broadmeadow Road, so that's a proposal. On the left side of the map is a blue box with a P. That is the park and walk recommendation. We've identified locations close to each school that if students don't live near the school, the parents can drive there and then let the kids walk the rest of the way or walk with them so they get some exercise. Here's the proposed safe walking route. We try to create a route from each direction to the school. You'll see Broadmeadow Road does not have any sidewalks. The red lines represent existing sidewalks. and the blue P shows the park and walk location. And we look at things like sidewalks, speed limits, crossing guard location, crosswalks, pedestrian signs to come up with these safe walking routes. At East Lawn, the cars pick up and drop off on the north side of the building and the buses on the south side. Walkers can go east into the neighborhood, and pretty much anywhere else they're going, they need to cross Maplewood Drive with the crossing guard. What we're recommending is a safety study for the village to do of Maplewood Drive to figure out the best way to cross here safely. And the proposed safe walking route map shows all the routes feeding into Maplewood Drive and then leading it to East Lawn School. At Northview School, currently cars can almost go anywhere. They enter on the southwest side and can leave on the northwest side or the east side through Illinois Drive. The buses come in the southwest side and exit on the northwest side. Walkers and bikers have some challenges needing to be led by a teacher to the west to get across Sheldon Street, and to the east, they only have a pedestrian lane on Illinois Drive, no sidewalk. So we do want to see sidewalks on Illinois Drive, and we know that there's a path being built on the east side of the property to get to the rail trail. But we want to close the front driveway to cars so that kids can walk or bike and enter and exit the building safely, and you don't have to cut through traffic. Buses can enter and exit on the southwest side and cars on the northwest side. We've been having this discussion with RCS in the village, and I know that plans keep changing, but this is our proposal. On the bottom left of the map, you'll also see a park and walk site proposed at the Nazarene Church, and that's a place that kids can use either Sheldon Street, or the red line shows that we would propose building a sidewalk from the south part of the Northview School property to the parking lot. The safe walking route map shows arrows from all parts of the attendance boundary using Oakcrest Drive, Sheldon Street, Champaign Avenue, and then coming from the southeast, Chanute Street and Grove Avenue, as I mentioned, the crosswalk enhancement at 136 and Chanute Street. Finally, Pleasant Acres, all cars and buses come in and out of one entrance at Short Street. The cars go to the north side of the building, buses to the south. Walkers from the north use Harper Drive, but again, there's a pedestrian lane, so we recommend building a sidewalk. And then there is a cut-through sidewalk between two houses to get to the school. Going south of the school, there's a sidewalk that I showed in the picture along the farm field. And so we recommend that that be widened from 4 feet to 8 feet. And then it can be extended to Veterans Parkway when you get down to Perimeter Road and Veterans Park. The safe walking route map shows that there are not many sidewalks north of Short Street and Ader Drive. So we would propose sidewalks be built there as well. And then on Perimeter Road at Fairway Drive, we recommend that a crossing guard be installed to help kids get to and from Gulfview Village. For the other E's, we recommend bike education pamphlets be distributed for education, as well as a parent letter annually about traffic rules, distribute safe walking route maps and traffic circulation maps. For medium priority, we recommend to establish a bike education curriculum and to host bike rodeos at the school. Examples are shown in the pictures. You have skill stations for kids to either learn how to bike or to practice their, and a low priority is to host wellness fairs. For encouragement, we have high priority recommendations to have school walkathons and celebrate Bike to School Day in May and Walk to School Day in October. On the medium priority side, there's the Frequent Walker Club idea, which allows kids to participate even if they don't live close to school. So there can be a punch card system or a foot token system that a teacher can use every time a kid walks to school, or if they can walk during recess, like at school. And they can partner with local businesses so that when that punch card gets filled up, or you can be given foot tokens and get so many tokens, that a kid will have a prize, like maybe an ice cream cone at Dairy Queen, something like that. Park and walk sites I talked about a bit. For Pleasant Acres, we've identified the Cultivators and New Light Baptist Church as places that could be those sites. The bottom picture shows a school in Urbana where there's a yard sign telling families that they can park across the street at the church and cross where the crossing guard is. And then that gets the parents out of the congestion around the school, and it gets the kids some exercise before they start their day. Other recommendations are early dismissal for walkers and bikers, snow removal encouragement, and something that we do in Champaign-Urbana is have yard signs that can be given to neighbors that thanks them for shoveling their walk. And it's something visible to walkers and drivers that they should also remember to shovel their walk. And then walking school buses, and also listed are bike trains. It's the idea of having a school bus structure, but on foot or bike. So you get interest from kids, and then you develop a route, and you have an adult or perhaps a responsible high school student who, quote, picks up the student every day at a certain time, and then they walk to school together. And this can be something that's done once a week in good weather. You can start small until you can figure out what capacity you have to do this regularly. For enforcement, I mentioned adding some crossing guards at Champaign and Sunview for Broadmeadow, for Northview at Sheldon and Grove, and Pleasant Acres at Perimeter and Fairway. Proposed traffic circulation changes, and then having police present at the beginning of the school year just to remind families to obey traffic laws. Medium priority are to enforce motorist violations, and that includes no cell phones in school zones. And then using message boards in the summer to remind people, drivers, when school starts, and during the school year to remind them to slow down in school zones. And low priority to enforce bicycle and pedestrian violations. Finally, for evaluation, we have to continue doing the surveys we were doing. Teachers can do the travel tallies in the fall and the spring at least once a year. That tells us those mode share numbers. And then walkability surveys that go home with the students will let us know what the issues are in the school. Medium is to implement, measure the goals, and low is to do bike and pedestrian counts every 5 years and continue doing bikeability surveys and speed studies on particular streets. So where we are is that we are completing the documents, and they will be posted on the RPC website. We will notify RCS when that is done. There are some survey reports on this website already. And then we request in July that you approve the documents, because in the fall, it's expected that IDOT will also call for Safe Route grant applications. And if you have approved plans, that will give your applications more weight. Thank you very much for your time. And my name is Gabe Lewis, and the contact information is on the screen.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Hold on, anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything? Gabe, did you have something to say?
I just wanted to mention that the audio you missed at the beginning was that we got a grant from IDOT to do not only these safe route plans, but the village transportation plan. And so we presented the transportation plan to the village board at the beginning of the month, and we're coming to the end of both of these plan processes. But we've done a lot of surveys, not only in person, but working with Michelle and RCS to get the paper surveys out to the families. And so we were happy with the response that we got.
So if anybody have any questions?
No, it seems very thorough. Thank you for putting all that effort into it. It gives us a good picture of what's going on at each school.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, then Gabe, we thank you for the presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. This moves us to item number 4, which is the public forum. There are no public comments this evening, so we're moving on to item number 5. It's an action item. It's the consent agenda items. Items that we have to consider are A, board meeting minutes from May 21st meeting, a regular meeting, open meeting minutes. B, the bills and treasurer's report. As we continue to provide you a clear updated budget information, the cash flow document is now replacing the budget summary document. Then item number C, we do have some donations and grants. Michelle, would you like to present that information?
Yes, we've been busy. We have been awarded the United Way grant again. So to remind you, that's the grant that lasts for 2 years. So we have $70,000 for each of those 2 years, a total of $140,000. And that's the after-school program that we have at Pleasant Acres with Don Moyer Boys and Girls Club. So while it wasn't the increase that we wanted to increase that amount and expand into another building. We are very fortunate that we at least received this level funding, because this was a very challenging year for all agencies to raise funds. So we're very excited that we are able to maintain what we have at Pleasant Acres. There is also a $500 from Champaign County Audubon Society grant to Broadmeadow. Ryan Delgadillo, she's our behavioral manager at Broadmeadow. She wrote that grant, and that is for a community garden. So they are already working on that. And then Pleasant Acres has $4,000 for Fuel Up to Play 60 grant. That is about physical activities to include I Move Club at recess, farm to table activities, promotion of healthy activities, and money for incentives and events. And some of you may remember when Wendy Starwalt, the principal at Pleasant Acres, presented not too long ago. She presented and at that point talked about this and was hopeful that they would receive the grant, and they indeed did receive the grant. That's all I've got.
All righty, then if any board member have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything in the consent agenda item? If not, then would someone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Sandra.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including ratification of bills prepaid by the finance manager under board policy 450.
Okay, Ms. Ulott made the motion. I'll go in and second it. And then I beat you to the punch, Joan.
Oh, sorry, Bill.
That's okay. So then if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Robinson,
Aye.
Ulott,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous. The motion carries and the consent agenda items are approved. This moves us on to number 6. It's an action item. It's discussion and possible approval of any items removed from the consent agenda. Since we didn't remove anything, we're going to move on to number 7. Number 7 is an action item. It's the 2019 to 2020 budget amendment. Be presented by Kendra Good, the finance manager.
Hello. Nothing has changed since the April when we presented it, except for we moved $56,000 from local to a grant. So it was reduced by $56,000 because they moved some money around to cover that cost. So,
okay. Any
questions?
Your board member have any questions regarding the budget amendment for Kendra?
I quite didn't understand. $56,000 from a grant was moved where?
We moved it from local funds to a grant.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any other questions? Comments? Concerns? If not, then would someone care to make the motion?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Last month, we were looking at that 30% when it was 30%, and then it went down to 20, but the amount stayed the same.
Mhm.
Did you check that? And
Oh, yeah. The property insurance did go up 40%, but in total, it only went up 29% because our work comp premiums were just a smidge over.
okay, so the amount was correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
This is the total. Yeah.
Anybody else have any other questions? Going once, going twice? Well, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the 2000?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Mr. Brotherton made the motion to approve the 2019-2020 budget amendment as discussed, and we'll need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Fitzgerald, and we'll need a roll call vote on that, please.
Graham,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Wet,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Okay, and that's unanimous. That motion carries. So the budget amendment has been approved. Moves us on to item number 8, which is an action item. It's the 2020-2021 professional evaluation plan. It's supposed to be a video, and Dr. Scott Woods and Carissa Culbertson will join us in Zoom, and they will answer any questions for the board after the presentation plays, and it should show up here in a few seconds. Hey, Hannah, if you get an opportunity, you want to let the record reflect that Mark Keys has now joined the meeting?
I have written that down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We are having technical difficulties, so just hold on.
It's just Google, that's all.
It's the tech.
No, this is high demand time for Google, so things are going slow.
One.
Let's go back.
We're almost there. It's coming.
Bless you.
I'm going to be doing a review of our professional evaluation plan for the upcoming school year. The professional evaluation plan is the process that we use to evaluate all of our certified staff. So I'll refer to them as certified staff, as teachers throughout this. This presentation is a very condensed version of what we present to our teachers at the start of the school year. It won't go into the same level of detail that we would have for our teachers. At the end of the presentation, Rachel Palmer will be with me to answer any questions that you might have about the evaluation plan or our process. So annually, there is a joint committee of teachers and administrators that meets to review the evaluation process. We do this to make sure the process is effective in measuring what we want it to, which is teacher quality and student performance. And also we have to consider, are we complying with any new regulations? Every year since the PARA, which is the Performance Evaluation Reform Act, has gone into effect, there have been new regulations that we've had to account for in this document. So the first thing we go over with teachers is we have to inform them by the first day of student attendance of what their evaluation status is, and that includes who their primary evaluator is. That may be interesting this year as to when the first day of school with students will be. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We warehouse all of the evaluation information in a program called Standards for Success. Most every district at this point uses an online platform because of the a large amount of information that has to be tracked in the evaluation process. This allows, for instance, I can take notes in an observation. As soon as I'm done with the observation, the teacher can see those notes. Teacher can provide feedback on those notes. Then I can score it. The teacher can see the score and provide feedback. Also, teachers upload artifacts such as lesson plans, assessments. All of that goes through this platform. What is new this year? The major change is an all-in student growth objective. What this means is that we will have one student growth objective for all certified staff. It will utilize standardized assessments that we currently use across pre-K through 8th grade, and it will target growth in math and reading language arts. Prior to this year, every certified staff member was responsible for creating their own student growth objective, which often meant creating their own assessments, administering those assessments, and scoring those assessments. They had not previously been required to use standardized assessments. This can prove to be very challenging for a lot of teachers to do, as well as for administrators to monitor. The second change this year is the addition of a self-assessment for domains 1 and 4 is now required. This is a pretty minor change since most schools have already been using it. It's just now a formal piece. This year, the new regulation is that we need to include an appeal process for any staff members who are rated unsatisfactory. What is the all-in SGO? The all-in SGO, as I said, is it's taking an aggregate look at all of the students in our district, where they start and where they end up. And that is growth. And it's looking at each student individually and how every student's starting in a different place and ending up at a different place. And we're able to get a growth score that shows us that for every student. So what we're going to do is all of our certified staff will be tied to that pre-K through 8th grade growth goal, measuring reading, language arts, and math on standardized tests. This allows us to increase collaboration. It allows us to align our school improvement plans to the student growth objectives. And we are also going to be using this student growth objective with our administrators who are required to do a student growth objective. So we're really directing resources and personnel toward common outcomes. There are two parts to the evaluation. So the first part I've already been talking about is the student growth objective. Beginning this year, the whole district will have one overarching growth goal. And if that comes out at proficient, that means everyone is going to score proficient. If it comes out at excellent, everyone scores excellent. If it comes out at needs improvement, everyone scores at needs improvement. And we're using the ECRA growth standards, and those are on an upcoming slide. For most of us, actually for anyone who uses the student growth objective component in the evaluation, it is 30% of the total evaluation. We do have folks, typically therapists, who are exempted from doing the student growth component. All of our certified staff are evaluated. The majority of the evaluation is professional practice. I say this is what's actually going on in the classroom. And that is the vast majority of what the evaluation is. We use the Danielson framework for evaluating professional practice. We are required to do formal and informal observations. If you're tenured, it's 2 observations total. If you're non-tenured, it's 3. We do considerably more visits to classrooms. An observation is a process, not just stepping in the classroom and being in there and seeing what's going But that's 70% of the total evaluation, with 30% being student growth. Beginning this year, student growth will be used differently in that because we're all using the same student growth objectives, it's going to allow our grade level meetings, our team meetings, our multi-tiered systems of support meetings to, when we're having our data discussions, to look at common data across the district and across grade levels. Those conversations have been happening, but not around the student growth objective. All certified staff will receive the same SGO score. The nice piece of this is it's removing quite a bit of paperwork, I would say, although that paperwork is online now, but quite a bit of paperwork for our teachers. We will be able to import the SGO scores into SFS and have all the documentation already in place for the teachers. So here's the ECRA growth standards, and I want to point this out to you. So this is most likely, and currently most teachers end up in the proficient range. So proficient is, did you grow what we expected you to grow? So we expect all students to grow. And so the question is did you grow as much as we expected? So ECRA gives us a statistical measure of what that expected growth is. If we meet the expected growth, which again means we've made growth, we would all score at proficient. If we score higher than expected, we would be scored at excellent. Anything lower is either going to be needs improvement or unsatisfactory. This shows the overall breakdown. If each teacher receives scores in each of these categories, and then they are multiplied by the weights. So up here you have the employee effectiveness rubric. These are the 4 domains. Domains 2 and 3, which are typically observable in classrooms, make up the majority of the employee effectiveness rubric, which is overall 70% of the total evaluation. So the ratings would go in here, they'd be multiplied out and then go into this raw score for the employee effectiveness rubric. We would import the student growth objective score, multiply those through, and then we're going to get a sum of weighted scores, which ends up being a score between 1 and 4. And on the next slide, you'll see what that means. So in order to be rated excellent, a teacher would have to be at 3.35 or higher, proficient 2.5 or higher. Anything lower than a 2.5 results in a different outcome for the certified staff member. So for instance, beginning this year, if a staff member is rated unsatisfactory, there is an appeal process, which this complies with Illinois School Code. There is an appeal form, and then there would be a panel of evaluators who would review the evaluation process to determine if there was an error in the evaluation. We've also added that if a teacher scores at needs improvement, that teacher may request a review. In that case, the review is done by the superintendent or designee. We want to point out to the teachers that it's, remember, if you get one of these, you need to look it up and remember what to do. So fortunately, there are not a lot of teachers rated in needs improvement or unsatisfactory. All right, so the last thing is I'm going to turn it over to the board to ask questions of Ms. Palmer and myself. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. I always do. You said twice that every teacher will receive the same score. And I didn't quite understand what you meant by that.
Okay. Hello, everyone. First, let me say that Rachel's not here. It's Carissa. We had to switch that from the last meeting. What we're looking at doing is the score will be for the district. So there's going to be a district-wide student growth score that we can report. And we will all be using that same score. So we're going to be it's not me personally. We use this program called ECRA, and it will take every single student in the district, where they started and where they ended up, and then it aggregates them all. And as a district, did all of our students, or did they fall within expected growth, higher than expected growth, lower than expected growth? You still look confused.
I was teaching a class and the majority of my students had higher than expected growth, but as a whole, the district had lower than expected growth. My score would be lower than expected.
Correct.
Okay, not happy with that. I mean,
Can you also add, Dr. Woods, a little bit about how we've looked at the last 3 years of data on ECRA?
Well, sure. Thanks for queuing me up. In the last 3 years on our ECRA data, we have come out at the expected growth for when we look at it. When we and keep in mind, this committee is a joint committee of the teachers and the administration. So everybody agreed on this, and we talked through the pros and cons of doing it this way. It's a big stressor for the teachers right now, the way the system currently is, because there's so much that they have to be responsible for. That's not about them teaching. It's about tracking data, creating assessments that fit in this profile that we can use. This is a simpler system for our teachers, and we think that for the whole school, and so for individual schools and for the district, it's actually going to get us looking at and talking about data in a more meaningful way. So simple answer is the data that we have for the last 3 years, most likely we're going to come out at proficient. And we found that pretty much however we sliced it, whether we were looking at just kindergarten and first grade, or just junior high, or just one elementary school. There were occasions where there might be an individual grade level or something at a school which was lower than expected. But yeah, there's pros and cons to doing it this way, and I think we felt that there was more upside for sure on this.
okay, I understand there were administrators and teachers on this committee, and you all agreed on it and agreed this was going to be the best route to go. I would love to talk to, a couple people and just hear, individual thoughts on that. Not that I distrust anybody or anything, but I've always not liked taking the whole group and everybody has to do the same thing. It's like one kid gets in trouble in class and you punish the whole class.
Yep.
So,
well, I would say, one of the things to look at in there. So let's just say a couple of folks on the committee on the teacher side are definitely excellent teachers. And I hope Carissa jumps in anytime now.
I was going to ask her to, but I thought not to put her on the spot.
But one of the things we made an adjustment for is if you're a teacher and you score excellent on that employee effectiveness side, so the 70% side,
yeah,
we changed the summative scale. So you would notice in the presentation, it used to be you had to be at 3.5 to 4 to get excellent. It's now 3.35. So what we've mathematically accounted for is that if you get excellent as a teacher, even if you get proficient on your student growth, you're still going to end up scoring excellent overall.
Okay.
That was a concern. I score excellent on the teaching components, and I've always gotten excellence on student growth. So what happens now if I get proficient and I don't have as much control? So we did account for that in there. And there's a handful of people, and some of the people on our committee are those people. So that was a concern they had too. So we wanted to make sure that if you're an excellent teacher, even if you end up proficient on the SGO, you can't see my hands. I'm really hand talking right now. if you get proficient on the SGO, you would still be able to, you would still end up scoring excellent overall.
Okay, that does make a difference. Just my personal opinion. Carissa, you were on the teacher side of it. It's good with you?
So I had the same exact basically question as you did at the very beginning. And I was like, you know, walk me through this because I don't quite get how this could, how can you be so confident that this is going to end up positive for everybody? Because like you said, administrators have a big chunk of this on their evaluation too. So I'm like, well, this has got to make sense somehow. So I mean, not only is the all-in approach a healthy approach for the district, it's a healthy approach to consider teacher retention. I've been here for a minute and I can say that I can take credit for setting my kids up successfully to continue. Making growth for RCS has never been a struggle. We really do well in the growth area because there's a lot of growth that needs to happen. And I, you know, was around with evaluations before the student growth component came into play. And so it's not like just because that came into play, we all of a sudden started making goals to grow our kids. That was happening obviously long before. That's just good teaching. So it is part of our evaluation, but I can say the only thing that changed is to make more paperwork and more like statistics and data that, to be honest, sometimes didn't make a whole lot of sense. Because from one class to the next and one class size to the next, if you had a smaller class size, which I have had recently, smaller classes, it makes it so hard because it just comes down to numbers and data and statistics. And to be honest, I don't care. I care if my kids are growing and getting where I want them to be, not how it looks on paper. So I want something that's going to make sense and be fair and also give me time to do what's really important, which is not to play around with numbers on a paper and enter them into a spreadsheet until it agrees with whatever I'm supposed to be doing on paper. So when you take a large number of kids, like our entire district, and you look at the growth made, what we finally, and I just said, you know, if we take the entire district knowing that there's a lot of growth to be made and we're not meeting proficient growth, we've got a bigger problem on our hands than a teacher who maybe scored excellent in her teaching practices, but now has to take an unsatisfactory rating. Like that shouldn't be happening in our district. We shouldn't be scoring unsatisfactory overall with all of our kids in the entire district based on growth, which is something that we do well with, if that makes sense. So the more we looked at data, because data is part of it, and the more we looked at all the years and just mathematically speaking, because that's what it really comes down to, it did make sense. And it was like, okay, this will be okay. We will likely meet the proficient expectation, which is what we're all wanting. And if you, like we said, since we changed the scale, if your teaching practices are solid and you're scoring proficient or excellent, then that student growth component is just gonna keep you where you need to be. It may bump you up a little bit, but it may not. But really what it comes down to is your teaching practices and that whole other part, the 70% of your evaluation, if that makes sense. So yes, I was super hesitant at first, especially because there's not a whole lot of districts that have been doing this, but I think it's probably because it is kind of a little bit unclear at the beginning, and it is on paper or to see it's an all-in approach. Like that was the first reaction I have, as I know a lot of teachers would, but we did as an association and team, para team from the teacher side, we made a recording much like what Dr. Woods did and sent it out to our teachers ahead of time to let them know this is what we're looking at, this is what our team is likely going to approve and move forward with, especially because it all happened when none of us were at school and couldn't be talking to each other about. And so we kind of did a presentation with much more detail about just the student growth component. We sent it out to all the teachers and gave our reasoning behind why we think it's going to be a good move for us. We got a couple questions here and there, but I think, and we saved it and it's recorded so we can send it to people if they need it. New teachers, maybe that are new hires and things like that, because it's going to be very new for new people too, especially if they've been at another district. If they're brand new teachers, it might not, but it's definitely something they're going to need to understand. And when we were able to explain it thoroughly like that, everybody saw like, okay, this does sound good, because what it really is going to mean is that we're going to have more time to do the things that we need to do, which is collaborate and plan and make goals and not worry about that data piece, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
It does. And I agree with you in the part of looking at the district as a whole. I like that.
Yeah.
A
So
whole
if
picture.
if you're a teacher in the younger grades, then yeah, what you're doing now is setting them up to continue to grow at the junior high, you know, and so forth. So it is okay to say, I feel like I had something to do with that. And, you know, for the kids that are still there all throughout the years. So I think it makes a strong stance to everybody that this is you know, grow beyond is our motto, and that's what this is all about, is growth, and we are prepared to do that together. So
thank you. Good explanation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I think what also may have helped is, and Carissa did allude to this, and Scott mentioned it too, was that our administrators are doing the same thing. So when it's all in, it's all in. And I'm hoping that we have built some trust amongst all of us on the committee, and then, you know, in the whole district. So I think that's very important to understand, that it's for the administrators' evaluation as well.
Yes, that's good. Thank you for explaining all that to me.
Anybody else have any other questions? No. All right then. If nobody has any questions, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the professional evaluation plan?
I'll make that motion to approve the professional evaluation plan.
Okay, motion was made by Ms. Fitzgerald. Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Keys. And we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson, Graham,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. That motion carries, and the professional evaluation plan has been approved. Okay, this moves us on to item number 9. It's an action item. It's pay increase for the behavioral coach, and Ms. Ramage will be presenting that information.
It's recommended that the district handle this position in the same manner that we handle several other positions, such as teachers and teaching assistants, by determining pay based on the level of education obtained. So this position's wage scale has been adjusted, and recommending that we adjust it to add an hourly wage scale for the master's degree at an increase of 60 cents per hour. We have one person in this position, and only one position.
Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for the superintendent? If not, then would someone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to make change to the behavioral coach wage scale as presented.
Okay, motion was made by Ms. Ulot. Anyone care to second?
I second it.
Seconded by Mr. Robinson. And we'll need a roll call vote on this, please.
Graham,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Okay, and it's unanimous here. Then the pay increase for the behavioral coach has been approved. Okay, this moves us on to item number 10, which is an action item. It's the personnel report. And to the board, just want you to pay close attention that there were 2 coaching positions added So if you guys had a chance to review the personnel report, if you had, did anybody have any questions, comments, concerns regarding the personnel report? If not, then would someone care to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, so Mr. Brotherton made the motion to approve the personnel report as presented, including with the stipulation that each individual is required to comply with all requirements for new hires as indicated in Illinois statutes and RCS board policy and procedures. Mr. Brotherton made that motion. Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Ms. Fitzgerald. I work with a guy by the name Fitzpatrick, I'm sorry. Anyway, so we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Ulot,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. That motion carries and personnel report has been approved. Okay, this brings us to item number 11. It's an action item. It's a memorandum of understanding. This is going to be presented by Michelle.
Right. There are two memorandums of understanding. The first one is with RCS and RCESPA, and that MOU has to do with Memorial Day as a paid holiday. And it's just memorializing what has been past practice, that we do have Memorial Day as a paid holiday. So that's one MOU. The second MOU is with RCESPA, RCSEA, and RCS. And that MOU is regarding stipends during the pandemic. So this MOU with both associations is in regards to how we handle stipend pay for extracurricular sports and clubs in the event that those cannot be held. So we have language that explains how that will operate, how we would prorate if we start a sport and then we're shut down due to COVID. Then it talks about how we prorate that. Some clubs and activities can still be held remotely. We've allowed for that if it's presented to us how they would perform that remotely. So that's what this MOU does, is explain some different scenarios for this time in the pandemic.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Comments? Okay.
So this is specifically for the COVID pandemic and won't be in case another situation like this comes up again? Is this specifically for the COVID going forward if we have any issues this fall?
It's for this fall all the way until there's immunization, until we're.
Okay. So it's just dealing with till this particular pandemic, and we would have to readdress that if anything different was to come up, correct?
I think that we would need to look at it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good question. Anybody else have any other questions, comments, or concerns? If not, then would someone care to make the motion?
I will. I'll make a motion to approve the RCS, RCESPA Memorandum of Understanding for Memorial Day as a paid holiday as set in the past practice, and RCSEA, RCESPA, RCS Memorandum of Understanding for stipends during the pandemic.
Okay, the motion was made by Ms. Ulot. Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Keys. And we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like it's unanimous and that the memorandums of understanding have been approved. Okay, this moves us on to item number 12. It's an action item. It's job descriptions. It's facilities director and the food service director is updated. There's no additional salary or wages for either position. It's just a simple update in job titles. Okay, and we're changing the term supervisor to director. And for the facilities director description, is updated to actual responsibilities performed. This is part of an ongoing review of the job descriptions. Board members have any other questions, comments regarding the recommended changes to the job descriptions? If not, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the updated job descriptions for facilities director and food service director as presented?
I will.
Okay, Mr. Brotherton made the motion. Anyone care to second?
I second it.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Robinson. Okay, and we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Keys,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Okay, and that's unanimous. The motion carries, and the updated job descriptions for facilities director and food service director have been approved. Okay, this moves us on to item number 13. It's an action item. We added positions and job descriptions. We have a technology support technician, and Ms. Ramage will do that presentation.
All right. Most of you will remember when we hired our technology director, Nikia Benson, our lifesaver right now, well, all year, but particularly right now. We discussed that we would evaluate the need for an assistant at a later date. The need is greater and more urgent now than ever, that we need an additional technology position in place due to the demand of the online learning needs. So we are happy to announce that we're able to do this sooner than we expected, because the cost for that position for the first year can be covered under the CARES grant. So we're excited that we're able to do this a little bit more quickly than we anticipated. So we will continue the position, of course, beyond just the 1 year, but that will come out of our local budget, which we had anticipated probably needing to do anyway. It's just nice to be able to push this along a little bit faster than we thought. So we would like to post and fill this position as soon as possible. There is a lot happening and going on that we really need to have that position filled as soon as possible.
Okay.
Questions?
Anybody have any questions? Comments? Concerns?
Yes.
Us?
Thank you, Nakia. You have been a
Thank you.
godsend. Thank you for putting up with me.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions or comments, concerns? If not, then would someone care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the added position of technology support technician and approve the job description.
Okay, so a motion was made by Ms. Ulot. Anyone care to
second.
make, seconded by Mr. Keys? And we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Graham,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. That motion carries. So therefore, we just approved the technology support technician position and position description. This moves us on to item number 14. This is board and superintendent comments. Michelle, would you like to provide us an update on returning to school?
Sure. I don't have a whole lot new or a whole lot to talk about, but I will update you as to what we know right now. So we are being told to prepare for everything, but yet not finalize anything. That's kind of, I think that statement best describes what we've been doing. Today, though, we did learn ISBE will release guidance in the next week to support a safe transition back to in-person learning this fall. ISBE stated they will emphasize in-person learning for all students to the greatest extent possible, while realizing that may not be feasible in all situations. Blended remote learning days allow schools to utilize a mix of in-person and remote learning if needed to protect the health and safety of students, teachers, and families. ISBE stated that schools that plan to utilize blended remote learning days should consider equity and prioritize in-person learning for our students with greater needs. So we here at RCS, we've looked at a few different scenarios, and we can finalize a scenario or scenarios, but not until we receive that guidance from ISBE. So we do have 3 different types of scenarios that we're looking at, not uncommon to probably what every district is looking at right now. One scenario is that students return to school, but of course are limited still by that 6-foot social distancing, which for elementary means 10 or fewer in a classroom. All students and staff wearing masks. This would mean probably not all students would be able to attend all day at the same time, in elementary at least. This could look like an A day, B day type rotation situation. So our committees are working on possibilities for that. Another scenario is all students continue remote learning at home due to intermittent stay-at-home orders, either short-term or long-term situations. Remote learning will be different than in the spring in many ways. We are working on those details, but it includes devices, internet connectivity, and improved instruction. This past spring was very reactionary with very little time to plan, as it was for all school districts. RCS staff did an amazing job with the tools and situation at hand. So we currently have committees working since April and May, and they are continuing to work over the summer to provide that rigorous education for all students remotely. And yet another scenario is what ISBE stated, blended learning in school and remotely. We know there are some families who are very concerned about sending their students back to school, whether it be for a medical concern or any other reason. We need to listen to those families, and perhaps they can choose to participate remotely. This has to be a parent choice, and we're working on those possibilities too. One of the biggest areas of concerns, believe it or not, is busing. So currently, if we have to maintain 6 feet social distancing, a lot of you have heard me talk about this, on a bus, our 70 passenger bus becomes a 10 passenger bus. So there are many questions, and after guidance from ISBE, CDC, IDPH, we will have the answers. We will have the answers to what, how, when, and why. We will provide parents and staff with specific plans and procedures regarding safety, such as masks and other PPE, distancing, procedures for everything, how to exit and enter the building, what health screenings look like, what do we do if a child or employee becomes ill during the day or has a symptom or a fever. So we will prepare for every situation that we can think of. So what I can promise you right now is everything we are planning involves the best education we can provide in the safest environment possible.
Okay, thank you for the update. Any board members have any questions or comments regarding the information Ms. Ramis just presented to us? No questions or comments? Okay, then any board member have anything that they'd like to present to the other board members? Any comments, questions, concerns?
I just finished with online learning with 2 children, a first grader, and I feel for the teachers that had to do that. It's tougher than standing in a classroom teaching. So, and it takes a lot of planning. So,
absolutely.
You know, I wish them the best no matter what happens.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Joan. Anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, then we can move on to item number 15. It's an informational item. Ms. Ramage, would you like to present that information?
Sure. It's just, I think we mentioned it at the last meeting, but reminder that July 31st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. the Carl Mobile Clinic will be here and have an 8 exam room unit along with the health department for immunizations at Ader. So there will be appointments for all of that. Information will be coming to families about that.
Okay. All righty. Thank you very much. And since we've removed items 16 and 17 from the agenda, the last thing we have here is item 18, which is an action item, and that's adjournment. So anyone care to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
And so I was going to ask you guys, since someone made the motion and someone seconded, so we don't have to do a roll call vote. Do I have consent to just declare this meeting adjourned? Unanimous
Yeah.
consent?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
by unanimous consent, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for showing up. Be safe. And for those of you who are watching this on through the streaming, through Facebook Live, thank you for attending this meeting and hope to see you at next one. Be
Good
safe.
night.
Thank you.
Night.
Night, folks.
Night.